YouTube is Bussy here coming at you with the latest video on Magic the Gathering. I'm following on the route with my World Championships Magic the Gathering deck collection, and today we're going back to 1999 again, to Tokyo, and we're going to be talking about Mark Lepine's deck. He was a finalist. He's done really well. Obviously Kai Bude was the one who won this tournament, and if you haven't checked out my video yet, then please have a look on it. It's a really cool deck that Kai Bude was running on that championship. But Mark Lepine's deck was really sweet as well. So, let's jump in straight away. The basic idea behind the deck is that you get down. First of all, it's a mono red deck, okay? You get down with early creatures, start to get in early damage, and then with the land destruction package, you just basically keep your opponent away from resources and just get in damage with your sorceries and instants to win the game. So let's have a look what we got here. Okay, so let's start with our damage package, as I would refer to it. So first of all, we got 4 Jackal Pups. These were the Goblin Guides of the era. So for 1 red, you get a 2/1. For each 1 damage dealt, Jackal Puppy deals 1 damage to you. I think that is an okay price to pay for a 2/1 creature anyway, especially for a card that came out in 1997. If you think about it, this definitely was a tempo card back in the day. Even nowadays, you could consider it a tempo card easily. I mean, there are still a limited amount of 2/1 creatures out there that come down for 1, and you can understand that. You would normally see them with a drawback, especially in red. So 4 Jackal Pups to start getting early damage. And of course you got 4 Goblin Fanatics. Now don't forget that a 1 for 1 red, and you can sacrifice Mog Fanatic as an instant and it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. How they used to play this card back in the days was obviously block with Fanatic and then sacrifice him. It was still back in the days where you could stack damage, and so you could actually get in 2 damage. You could take down a creature with 2 defense if you blocked it with Mog Fanatic. They changed the rules. It's still an okay card. I mean, it's not seeing too much play nowadays, but for this deck, I think it's really sweet, and certainly for the time, just to have 8 1-drop creatures in your deck, you could really apply early pressure, which is what red is absolutely great in. And then we got 3 Fire Slingers, a 1/1 for 2. You aren't meant to really attack with this unless you obviously want to, but it's much better to ping your opponent each turn with it. Yes, you do take the damage in as well, but you should be in the lead with damage. And really the whole idea is just that if there is a pesky creature you want to get rid of, Lenovar Elves or gosh, I don't know, anything. Maybe the opponent has a Mog Fanatic or anything like that. It's kind of nice to just use to clear the board off with. And like I said, you just get the damage in early and quick. So this is it for our basic creature package. And then of course, with pretty much every single deck that wanted to get damage in, we got a full playset of Cursed Scroll. Cursed Scroll used to be a really good card to get damage in, because you would play for 1, so it comes down very early. And whenever you got mana and hopefully 1 card in your hand, then you would just ping your opponent for 2. And even if you got 2 cards in your hand, let it be the same copy, you can actually have a really good little get your opponent into thinking that they might have a 50% chance of not being damaged, but actually no, they don't. So yeah, Curse Scroll. Actually, if you play with this card, I mean, on the surface it looks fairly weak, but if you play with it, you play with this deck or any deck that has Curse Scroll in it from the World Championship decks or whatever, you will find that it is actually a really fun card to play with. And then down to sorceries and instants, we have 2 Arc Lightning. For 3, you get to deal 3 damage divided between any number of targets, let it be player or creature. So it's it can be definitely versatile in some occasions. Obviously, it's a sorcery, so it's not super great, but it still comes down for 3. Like I said, it's fairly flexible. You can use it in like a finisher, or just again sweep off some creatures. Um, a 2 of I think is obviously enough in here. And then we got 3 Hammer of Bogardon, which I think it's a really sweet card even to the day. I mean, I really wish it would be reprinted. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not super powerful or anything. You get 3 damage to target creature or player for 3 mana, 2 red and a colorless, generic. But it is a sorcery, which is a huge drawback. But you can still, if you know, towards the end of the game, especially with red, especially when your curve is low, as you know, this deck's curve is pretty low. You get to return it to your hand for 5 mana, and then you can just keep recurring. You can keep recurring this Hammer of Bogardon, keep shooting your opponent for 3. So yeah, 3 of is more than enough. And let me just point out that the artwork, I think that the artwork is absolutely amazing. Ron Spencer, I apologize. Ron Spencer has done an absolutely brilliant job. Again, I must say that I am just completely blown away by the artwork of most of these cards. Let's go back to Arc Lightning. Check that out. That art is super sweet as well. Just there's something magical, pun intended, about these old school Magic cards. They are just absolutely marvelous looking. The art is just it's timeless. It's timeless. And then to round up our damage, of course, we have a full playset of Shock, because where would a red deck be without instant shooting? In this format at that time, obviously Lightning Bolt was not legal, so the second best was Shock that was available. Okay, now let's move on to the land destruction package that we got here. So starting out with 4 Avalanche Riders. Still to the day, it's modern legal. I even, I was looking around my card collection. I was like, hey, actually, this card is actually really good. For 4, you get a haste 2/2, and you get to destroy target land. Any land, can be basic or non-basic, so that already is pretty useful. It's not that you'll get to destroy your land, but you also can get 2 damage in. And then if you got enough mana in your next turn to pay the echo cost, then you do. If you don't, then you don't. You still, the primary job of this card is to destroy your land and potentially maybe get 2 damage in, or take a blocker out of the way. So fairly sweet card. And also, of course, on the sweetness side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Stone Rain. You must have 4 Stone Rains if you're trying to do land destruction, of course. Good old 6th edition art from John Madsen. Again, it does what it does. It's a sorcery for 3, destroy target land. Again, any land. It can be basic, non-basic. Just destroy the land. And to round up the land destruction package, we also have 4 copies of Pillage, which, of course, for a mono red deck is super good, super versatile as well. Not only gets you to destroy target artifact or land, it can be regenerated as well. But the really important bit here is that you have 4 main deck artifact destructions in this deck, which can be super relative against some of the other decks. So definitely the best land destruction card in this deck. And then of course Stone Rain and Avalanche Riders also do an extremely good job. Arguably, maybe Avalanche Rider is a little bit better than Pillage because it gets you 2 damage in, hopefully. But they are definitely on par. And of course, this grants you 12 cards that grant you land destruction in the deck. So that's it for the actual spells in this deck. So if I just move this to the side, we can have a look at our land package. And I think probably the most important deck that we should start here with is the 4 Wastelands, which of course is also part of the land destruction package. If you want to get good land destruction in 1999, you will run 4 Wastelands. It's an amazing card. you know, even with today's standards, if you ever play in Legacy against a control deck or even in Vintage, I guarantee you're gonna see Wastelands that you play against. It is just an absolute staple in the Eternal formats. Gives you a colorless mana, not that important. More important, tap it, sacrifice it, destroy target non-basic land. So with these 4 lands, we actually completely round out our land destruction package. With this, we have 16 cards that grant us land destruction in this deck. And with the early damage that we can bring in, we can just constantly take mana away from our opponent. With Wastelands, we can start super early. We don't even have to wait till we get to 3 mana to start building up that. We can constantly hold our opponent back with Wastelands, which is super important. Of course, we do need to get to 3 mana if we want to apply our actual spells. So then we got 2 manlands. We got 2 Gitu Encampment. Comes into play tapped. You can tap it for a red or for a generic and a red. It becomes a 2/1 red creature with first strike until end of turn. So yeah, I mean, it's again just a really good manland, to be fair. I would probably run it even nowadays. There are certainly some decks that would benefit from it, especially if this would be around in Modern now. It would really push the Hazaret aggro. But I know the deserts are cool as well, to be fair. But again, artwork, just really nice. You could even label it as a desert, because you basically got a Desert Storm there blowing at the background. Again, pretty cool card, and of course you can get more damage through with this card. First strike as well, pretty important. And then we got 2 Ancient Tombs. We don't really need more than 2. Obviously, the main card that we are trying to use Ancient Tombs for are our Stone Rain, our Stone Rain cards and our Avalanche Riders. And of course, with this, it makes it a lot more easy as well for us to pay the echo cost for the Avalanche Riders if we really want to. And of course, it can be useful if you look at some of the sideboard cards that we got as well. We're going to talk about that in a second. And of course, to just round the mana package up, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 mountains. So we run 16 plus 4 plus 4. So we got 24 lands, ladies and gents, which is quite a lot actually. But of course, you want to hit your land drops, especially if you want to destroy your opponent's land. So you gotta have enough mountains to be able to do that. And don't forget, you will be sacrificing your wastelands. You're not actually relying on those to make mana, really. So in effect, we're really only working with 20 lands here, which is more than enough. But there will be that odd occasion where you do want to tap your wasteland for mana. Right, let's look at sideboard. We got our 4th Fire Slinger here, just to round up the action. In case our opponent is playing with loads of weenies and we really want to ensure that we can get rid of it. We have our 3rd Arc Lightning. Again, it could be a good finisher. Again, it could be used really well against weenie decks or anywhere where we want to get more damage in. Then we got 1 Flowstone Flood, which basically again, another land destruction, just for that additional 1 card. And we can buy it back for 3 life and discard a card at random. So if for any reason we need reoccurring land destruction, we can get a Flowstone Flood into the deck. Then for a little bit more protection, obviously our creatures aren't very strong. We got 2 Masticores here. The Masticore. You of course have to discard a card from your hand in your upkeep to keep Masticore in play. You can for 2 you can ping a creature down with it, and you can regenerate it for 2. This was the I don't even know what I can compare it to. This probably was the Siege Rhino of its day. No, this is a lot better than Siege Rhino, let's be honest. Oh, I'm gonna get bad comments here. No, honestly, it's a really cool card. In case you need that extra additional defense, you can get domestic cores in, even if you can only keep it in play for a couple of turns. You got a huge beast down there, which can block, which can ping, so very versatile. We got then 2 Shattering Pulses against the artifact decks. Again, we can buy it back for 3 and just carry on destroying artifacts. And of course, it's an instant, which is also pretty important. It comes down for 2, but don't forget it's an instant, so it can be very, very useful. Then we got 1, 2, 3, 4 Scalds, which is an enchantment for a generic and a red. Whenever a player taps an island for mana, Scald deals 1 damage to that player. This is a very clear message against the control decks, against the blue decks. You can get loads of damage in with this. Obviously, this always comes into the deck against blue decks, so you gotta have the full playset. Artwork, check that out. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Love it so much. Adam Rex. Artwork by Adam Rex. And to finish off the sideboard, we then have 4 copies of Thram Foundry, which is an artifact for 1 generic. For 1 generic and tapped, you can remove Thram Foundry from the game. Target player shuffles his or her graveyard into his or her library. So basically, this is the graveyard hate of its time. Really good against the black deck, for example, that is trying to obviously use graveyard as its own resource. I am going to cover that deck as well, hopefully pretty soon. I haven't got it yet, but my mate has it, so I'm probably gonna just borrow it off him and cover that deck here as well. But again, just a sideboard hate of its own time. And what else do we have with this deck? We of course have the usual little token things, and we have the card list here, and we have a little description about Mark Lepine. Though only 17 years old, New Hampshire native Mark Lepine is a Pro Tour veteran. He has been with the Pro Tour since Atlanta '96 and has made the top 8 3 times. Lepine played an aggressive deck called Speed Red. With his deck, he applied pressure early with 11 fast creatures. Then he'd shift into land destruction mode with Wasteland, Stone Rain, Pillage, and Avalanche Riders for the late game. Lepine used Curse Scroll and Hammer of Bogaran to finish off his mana crippled opponent. And I tell you what, when I look at this deck, I am truly amazed because you know it's very simple, but it's very effective. In any format where you have wastelands available for you, playing land destruction is super easy. It makes sense. It just really makes sense to do it. He obviously taken into account some of the other decks that he was about to play against. Like if we look at the Kai Bude deck, he's got 4 main deck artifact destructions, so that can be super good against Bude's deck in trying to take down all the mana rocks. And then of course you can bring in the Shattering Pulse with its buyback effect. You can strengthen your artifact removals, and you got a lot of versatility. You know, if you really work together with the sideboard. So yeah, I really do like this deck. Just the art is really sweet. The cards are really good looking. I had this on the shelf for a while. I've not played it for a long time, but you know, I just bought it. I was like, hey, I gotta share this with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like, share the video with everybody. Make sure you subscribe, and of course leave a comment as well if you feel like doing so. So thank you very much for watching YouTube. Basayan signing out. Peace.